This is the MeatEater podcast coming at you shirtless, severely bug-bitten, and in my case, underwearless.
We hunt the MeatEater podcast.
You can't predict anything.
The MeatEater podcast is brought to you by First Light. Whether you're checking trail cams, hanging deer stands, or scouting for elk, First Light has performance apparel to support every hunter in every environment. Check it out at firstlight.com. FIRSTLITE.com. Bayou Lafouche. Is that how you say it?
Bayou Lafouche.
What's it mean?
The fork.
The fork in the bayou right here.
Okay.
When the bayou came down from the river, it forked off. Just like the push pole you use when you're hunting.
Yep.
It forked off, so that's where it's got its name.
Oh, a push pole's a foosh?
Yeah.
Introduce yourself.
Tracy Collins.
You ever been on a podcast
from
before?
Golden Meadow. No, sir. My first one that I could recall.
How's it feel?
I'm a little flushy.
Also joined by his son, Ronnie Collins. You've been on the show before, Ronnie.
Yep. When we did duck hunting, I came on.
You know, the famous Greg Fonts.
Yep.
Chili's here. And then Asa, who doesn't know about Asa Carter.
That's right.
Can you do me the can you listen? Asa Jackson Clark. Asa Jackson Clark. You're a professional fisherman, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I've done it for about 10 years on and off, charter fishing down here.
How old are you?
29. About to be 29 in a couple weeks.
Yeah. So you're a professional fisherman.
Yep.
You single?
No, I'm engaged.
Oh,
yeah.
I was going to help you out. Do me a favor. Here's the thing that I just want you to pay attention to for a second. Now and then, people will come to me and they'll say, you should really read blank book.
Right.
You should really watch blank movie. I will say to them, like if it's not going to happen, rather than creating tension and something that needs to be brought up again and again, I would just flat out say, I'm not going to watch that movie.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then it ends. And I don't need to feel guilty about not watching it. I don't need to feel guilty about not reading the book. They're not going to ask me again if I watched it. I'll just say,
leave it at that.
I'm not going to watch that movie. Okay? I would like you to go and listen to. Have you ever heard of a show called the Bear Grease Podcast?
Yeah, with Clay Newcomb.
I would like you to go listen to the 3-part series on Asa Carter.
Okay, I'll do that. I like listening.
You're going to do it or you're not going to do it?
If you were about to tell me,
sound like he's going to go do it.
If you were about to tell me to go read an Asa Carter book, I might not have, but I can listen. That's easy because I drive a lot, and I like Clay Newcomb. He's an interesting.
So
fella.
you're going to listen to the Asa Carter series?
Yeah, I will.
It'll change your life.
I actually will.
Okay.
It's not my namesake, but I mean, it's
I don't know that it's not. I don't think it is.
You never know.
Well, so Asa Carter, his namesake for his middle name was Forrest Carter. He was a guerrilla, like kind of a famous guerrilla fighter during the Civil War.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Cool.
Like a somewhat of a tactical genius, if not a somewhat compromised character, but a famous Civil War fighter.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, after what you told me about his kind of dichotomy of his life.
Yeah. Very complex person.
I'm interested now.
Yeah. Writer.
You piqued my interest.
Speech writer, regular writer, brawler, wild man.
Yeah, cool.
So you'll do that?
I will do that.
I
won't tell you I'm not going to do that.
Don't grin at me. You know what that means?
Is that like smiling and...
Yeah. You're like, oh, yeah, I'll read it. Yeah, you know you ain't going to read it. Chili, how was your first oyster, man?
Oh, it was incredible. I was telling Chief here that I feel like I'm part of one with land and sea, and I might just buy me a houseboat.
You're a bayou man now.
I'm a bayou man. Yeah, I'm working on the lingo. And
I've been nervous about the lingo, and I want to share something with you guys that I'm reluctant to admit. Last night, I had to look up I realized all of a sudden that I wasn't entirely clear on what a bayou was. I was like, I know what it is, but I don't really know what it is.
So what is it?
I feel like it's something you would know.
It is a slow-moving stream or river in flat country with a poorly defined shoreline.
So like a delta.
Is that
No,
what you
'cause it
guys
could be-
thought? Is that
No,
like,
a delta is where a delta is where a river opens out onto a larger
Fingers out.
fingers out in a body of water.
They
But
could
a
probably
bayou, slow-moving river or stream in flat country with poorly defined shorelines.
is that what you guys thought of? Like, is that what it
Well,
means to you?
The
Yeah,
bayou
that's-
was actually a branch of the river, Bayou Lafourche.
Yeah, but,
So
No, but I'm saying the word bayou,
Bayou,
in general.
right.
that's what I was thinking of, a slow-moving body of water,
Gotcha.
stream water.
Because I'm as down on the bayou as anybody, personally.
slow moving.
But I didn't realize what that. I realized being as down on the bayou as I am, not even knowing what the hell that meant, was making me nervous. So I looked it up.
Never really gave it any thought.
But as
Me
down the
neither.
bayou as you could go right here.
Yeah,
Mhm. We are down on the bayou.
into the bayou.
So Terry, people call you Chief. What's that all about? You have it written on your arm.
It came about when Ronnie's son was born, and his mother said, "Mr. Tracy, what would you want Anthony to call you?" I said, "I don't know, maybe Papa T or something like that." She says, "How about Chief?" I said, "Chief it is," and
Oh.
that's where we at.
Really?
Yeah,
And that's,
I like it.
Is that what your grandkid calls you?
All of them, yeah.
Just everybody calls him that now.
They all call me my friends, my buddies. They call me Chief, and it's all good.
All right. Do you mind? Can you walk us through what? Just tell us in what we were up to last night.
Well, last night, I mean, I haven't gone out in a few nights, about a week or so. So really, when you go shrimping, you got to kind of go out and hunt, have your hunt on, and search and see where the shrimp are.
Mm-hmm.
You got to kind of look at your tides and your water clarity, your weather. You just sometimes it's hearsay, we caught some here, and you go on the hunt. So last night, I mean, we had a little rough weather to start, but knowing that grass, the seaweed was moving in.
What's the
So-
word you use for that?
Raisin, like a raisin grass, we call it the sorghum.
Yep.
The sorghum is a raisin grass, and in French they call it raisin. And so we wanted to try and get away from that, so that's when we headed north. Then we ended up going hit one of the canals, knowing there wasn't going to have any of the raisin grass, so I knew it was going to be a little cleaner. I just wasn't quite sure if it was going to do anything because the tide was almost at a standstill.
Mm-hmm.
But even at a standstill, you notice they were real small. That's when your real small ones are going to kind of just float up and play around, and kind of just give a little drift. So we was able to pick up a few like that,
A few.
A few. Yeah, well, that was a little mess. I mean, sometimes you could load the boat in a little while in that concept, But it wasn't too bad. I was hoping I was looking for the larger ones, I
Yep.
was able to get a few.
How long have you been in the shrimp business?
Well, my family was always in the oyster business, but in the summertime, we would rig up a couple of the oyster boats. We had 3 boats. We'd put 2 of them with shrimp rigging, and we'd go out on the beach or in the bays in back of Grand Island, and that's what we did in the summertime. But the wintertime, it was oysters.
Okay, so it was more like opportunistic when you could.
Well, we shift from one season to the next,
Yeah.
from oyster season to shrimp season. So we'd get out of school early, and go with my grandpa and my dad, and I'd start fishing for shrimp. We'd do it every summer. Then we kind of broke away from it for a while. Then I had this oyster boat here. I hadn't shrimped in a long time, so I just we went ahead and utilized it to be able to go out and do a little shrimping.
When you say you guys broke away from it, did you break away from it because of the influence of the oil industry?
Well, actually,
Because
no.
it created
Back
different
then,
jobs, different class of jobs.
we was oystering almost year round now.
Okay.
We was with refrigeration. We was able to fish oysters in the summer months. We had an abundance of oysters, so we was fishing pretty much was pretty much oystering more than going back and shrimp.
How far back does your family go in this area? Oyster.
4 or 5 generations. 4 generations for sure. Fishing by hand in the Grand Island area. My dad was raised in Chenier, which is the little town right before you get onto the island.
Mm-hmm.
And after the big storm wiped everything out. Up.
What big storm was that?
I don't know. I don't think they had a name of it. It was before Betsy. It was before Betsy, because my dad was caught in the lake during Betsy. All the water was sucked out from the storm, and the boats were landing in the mud, and the water just rushed back. They had dropped the anchor and all, before the water rushed back, while the water was still there, they had dropped the anchor. They had 2 boats tied together, and when the water rushed back in, the boats separated, the ropes popped. He said the planks were flying off the sides. They found mud in the engine room that flew in through the little cracks in the windows and all. It was pretty bad, but they didn't have no, phones to see the weather coming and whatnot. They just knew they was in a storm. They was coming from across the river from transporting oysters, and they said when they got to the Ostrika locks, they used to open the locks with some mules. The
Seriously?
mules, yeah, the mules used to walk in a circle
And turn the shaft.
turn the shaft to open up the locks.
Really?
And when he got there, the mules were gone. So
They've been swept away.
They had to jump on land and manually turn the locks to open them up to lock themselves through to get back home. And by that time, there was actually.
What year was this?
65, the year I was born. Yeah, it was 1965, Hurricane Betsy.
Okay.
But it was before that they wiped out everything, and where some of my relatives, where their house landed up in Golden Meadow in Bayou Lafourche, the house landed there, and they broke it down in the bayou and rebuilt it on the land. So we landed in Golden Meadow. Yeah.
Because that's where your house landed?
That's how you want to say it. That's it. Not us. There was a relative of mine.
No, yeah, I'm with you.
But my family, I guess, my grandfather had other brothers that lived in that area also, so that they went up to Golden Meadow. And, but I still have the property in Chenier where they used to live and all.
What's there now?
Nothing. We had a camp there, but it got wiped out for, I think, Katrina, yeah. Yeah, wiped out everything.
What's a chenier, Chief? It's like the opposite of a bayou, right? A land bridge.
Chenier, I'm not quite sure.
That's an Oak Ridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ronnie, fix your mic, man. If you think that's 2 fingers off, it's
Big fingers.
5 fingers off your beard. It's 5 fingers off your beard and not 2 off your mustache.
Are we good now?
Higher.
Higher up? Right here?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't get the memo.
Greg's 2 fingers off, 3 fingers off his teeth.
Got big lips.
Phil's gonna be mad at you guys. I'm sorry. So,
so that's pretty much the oyster. They were fishing oysters by hand back then. They jump in the water. They coon oysters. They would take the oysters out the mud and put them in the big boat and
just hand picking.
Right. And they used to have they call it a tromai. It's a triple net. Besides oystering. So when the shrimping season would come around, they'd go put out a tromai. It might be 200, 300, 400 feet long, and it was a small mesh to catch the shrimp, a larger mesh, which would have been about a 3-inch mesh to catch like your trout, and then they had another mesh that would catch like the bull drum, bull reds, and everything. I actually still have some of the corks that were made out of cypress.
They'd put all 3 out at once.
It's all one net made all together. And they would just
why not just have the smaller mesh and catch all the shit?
They catch the bigger stuff would get away, as where the 4-inch mesh, the big fish would get caught in it. You need to manually pull them out.
Almost like a gill net.
Yeah, a gill net.
So it's sort of sorting what it catches.
Correct.
I got you. Oh, I see. So that catches them like a gill net. I got you. And what do they call that word?
Tromai, like 3 meshes.
Okay.
In 3 meshes in French is tromai.
And so these were oyster men.
Yeah.
That would make more other times a year fish that way.
Whatever was in season, and whatever they would have, whatever they would catch, they would load up in some skiffs, which was a boat without a deck, and they'd run them up the Barataria waterway and go sell them. That was how they'd get rid of them. They'd go sell them up the Barataria waterway and somebody would pick them up, bring it to New Orleans or whatever.
In Lafitte or New Orleans?
Probably Lafitte.
Lafitte.
Yeah, and they had he had pens built to keep turtles. They had a pond that they would block off with boards. They would take the redfish and drumfish and throw them in that pond, and when they was ready to go to market, they'd go round up everything. They had drums in the ground where the turtles would walk up to lay their eggs and fall in the little drum about 1.5 feet deep, and they'd go pick up the turtles, and they had those in a pen also.
Freshwater turtles or salt?
Salt. Diamondback turtle. Little diamondback
Oh,
turtle.
diamondback terrapins?
Yep.
Yeah.
Tell me about the trap again.
It was like a barrel, just cut maybe a 2-foot barrel to place it in the ground, level with the soil, where the turtles would just walk up and fall in them, because the turtles would climb ashore to go lay their eggs or whatnot.
Oh, and they'd think they were coming ashore.
Mm-hmm. They knew they was coming ashore. That's why they'd set these traps, to catch the turtles.
Man, I'm totally not following.
They come up to shore to lay their eggs.
I got it, but what are the odds he's going to come up the plank?
A lot of barrels. I don't know.
Yeah, you just place them in different areas. But there was an abundance of turtles.
So a wave of turtles.
Oh, they had a good bit of turtles. Not necessarily a wave. It was just in the area where you didn't have too many little sand banks in the marsh where they would go. So I guess
They look for sandy
they
banks.
knew where they was gonna go. Like if you're gonna go fishing, you know the fish is gonna be right here. Well, they knew the turtles were gonna come to lay here.
You know how I was telling Jack over there about how if someone asked me to read a book and I'm not going to read it?
I'm not gonna read no book.
Well,
No, I'm just joking.
and I'll say I'm not going to read it.
Right.
Here's another thing I'm trying to work on in life, like a self-improvement thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is when someone's explaining something to me,
Right.
and I don't understand it. I find that most people will they'll nod along.
Right.
I have tried in my adult life to become the kind of person that says, I just don't understand.
That's all right.
As bad as it might make me look, instead of acting like I understand, I'll
Right.
tell them I don't understand.
Yeah.
And I get what you're saying, but I don't.
Well, I wasn't there.
You don't need to
so
spend a
I'm
ton of
trying
time
to,
on it. Yeah.
I wasn't there, so I'm trying to explain it the best way I could kind of figure it out.
You can, if you just want to mess around and catch painted turtles, map turtles. I'm talking about, I guess, Yankee turtles up where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
They like to come out and sun themselves.
Correct.
Okay. So you could make a floating pen with mesh in it and put a sunning ramp, like a plank,
Right.
that comes up over it.
Right.
And they all stack up on there to sun themselves.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is spook them, because they don't back down off the plank when you spook them. They just dive in. So they walk up the plank to sun themselves, and then you just come by and spook them all, and they
fall in the cage.
And they fall in the pen.
Yeah.
I get that, but I don't get. But we don't need to spend too much time on it.
No, that's good, man. We all right.
You understand it, Greg?
I have a good idea, I think.
You do, really?
No, you got to think the amount of time these guys spent on the coastline. They probably had a pretty good idea where the sea turtles like to lay their eggs.
They're not sea turtles; they're diamondback terrapins.
So, like he was saying, it's in the marsh, it's mostly mud. Yep. They would find like a sandy bank on the marsh, which was a rarity. So a lot of your turtles would congregate there.
Knowing they're going to come up.
Which I've
with
noticed
eggs.
that too. The few places I've seen terrapins tend to be sandier parts of the marsh.
Didn't I show you one of the barrels? We was going to fish back there or something a long time ago.
Oh, you found one?
I don't know.
They still had the barrel there. I seen one.
I don't know.
It's been years now, but I've seen one still there.
When you grew up, you were raised by people who hand-picked oysters.
I still didn't grow up yet. No.
How did that?
Talk
about how you caught oysters when you were doing oysters
straight to the dredge.
But what was that transition like from guys going in and hand selecting to more mass harvest?
Well, that was before my time. So when I started working, we was pulling in the dredge, the chain and the dredge, pulling it up and landing on the deck.
Yep. But how is that like? Are the oysters so thick on the beds that you're just scraping the top of the bed off?
Well, you saw when we was loading the oysters.
Yep.
Well, we'll go pick that up. It might take us a day, 2 days to finally load up. When we load them up and we haul them here to transplant them, we have our bed marked off, and it's solid like a parking lot. It's real hard. So we're gonna pile them up. We could pile them up maybe 6 inches thick.
Back up and explain this process.
Okay, so
That you're moving oysters. Explain this.
well, you got the state reefs and you got your private leases.
Okay.
So your private leases, you can have them cleaned up where there's nothing there, and so you want to restock it.
Okay.
So you're gonna go to the state grounds, and sometimes when it opens up, yes, it's full. You could keep pulling them in as fast as you can.
And
It's
this is
really
a
full
regulated. The state grounds is a
State
regulated
grind-
spot,
Correct. A state.
and it's full of juvenile oysters.
correct.
And how do you pick those out?
And it could be from a juvenile to a market ready oyster.
Okay.
We just load everything up, and we bring them.
And what is that? What permit do you need for that?
You just need to have right now. You need to have a seed permit, but
A seed. They call it a seed permit.
A seed permit.
Okay.
Correct. But back then you didn't have to have one.
Okay. And
But,
you're hand grabbing these,
No, with the dredge.
so you're dredging off the state
Correct.
ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
Since I've been in the oyster business, I've never had to hand pick. That's when my great grandfather and my grandfather, they were hand picking. Now we moved up to the larger boats, and now we're going to state grounds and picking up the seed oyster and bringing them to our private grounds and washing them over. So we might do that for 2 months and just fill up a few acres of grounds
But why move them?
to refish them later.
Yeah, but
Maybe they're not market size yet.
why not just leave them where they are until they're market
Because they're like
size?
9 hours away. So we bringing them home where we can go out in a 15, 20-minute boat ride and fish, make our day, and then we could resell them. We might fish 800 sacks of oysters in a day and a half just to load up the boat.
How much is a sack?
Back then, I got paid as little as $8 a
No,
sack.
how many pounds?
Or 100 pounds or less,
Okay, so you have a place, you have a private place, a
Mhm.
piece of private property that is suitable for oysters.
Correct.
You go to a remote area,
Mm-hmm.
far away, and you dredge up you just dredge up oysters.
Mhm.
And then you're allowed to take those to your spot and distribute them,
Correct.
and then give them how much time?
Depending on the size, within from like September to April, some of them will grow an inch to an inch and a half with the salinity change. You might be taking an oyster from a brackish water and putting them in a heavy salinity area,
Uh-huh.
and you got to fish them before the summertime because the salinity, like we spoke yesterday, may come in heavy and kill them. So we're bringing them to this area for them to grow fast and have a great tasting oyster. We
Okay.
were known for our tasty oyster because you could take an oyster and move it a couple of miles away, and if it has a different water source, it'll taste different than that oyster right there.
Got it.
And we had a great area for a good tasting oyster.
Yeah, that's the thing that I never understood about oysters is that oysters, blue mussels,
Yeah,
that they're like these like circumpolar species. It's the same thing.
correct.
So when you see oysters like this name, that name,
It's just different waters.
yeah, it's not like a different kind of oyster.
Right,
It's the
correct.
same oyster from
I could
different
take
spots.
an East Coast oyster and bring it right here to Grand Island and leave it for a month, not even that long. You know what? It's going to taste like a Grand Island oyster. It's
Got
not
it.
an East Coast oyster no more. Yeah. So we would take these oysters, especially the closer you could get to the freshwater line
Yep.
that oysters are thriving. You take those oysters and put in a heavy salinity area.
Yep.
Man, they're just going to explode and grow and be happy, man.
But they're vulnerable to death.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we usually know our timing that we're gonna fish them out before they get to that point. Yeah.
And then when you go back, so you bring these seed oysters in and you plant them, and then you harvest them with a dredge,
Right.
and you're bringing them up. Like Ronnie, when we were in your boat last night, Ronnie was talking about being a little kid
Mm-hmm.
and being in the wheelhouse of that boat, and we're looking out on the deck where you were pulling shrimp nets. What do you call those?
Skimmers. Skimmer
Skimmers.
net shrimp.
The
net.
paupières.
And he would talk about looking out that window and not being able to see. He'd go to fall asleep and wake up and couldn't see you. And he'd have to try to climb over that mountain of oysters to come down and find where you were at.
Yeah.
out on the deck of that boat.
Mhm.
Because he'd be driving in that front. They had that front steering wheel,
Yeah.
and that's where he'd run when he'd be running the dredges.
And so you just wake up and there it was.
Yeah, wake up and there would be a pile of oysters.
And then are you then taking all the ones that are still too small and pitching them, or by that point is everybody harvestable?
No, right now we at the transplanting era, we're taking everything, and then when we're gonna go back to refish them for sale, then we will grade them.
Okay.
The little ones we could bring them to a different area to continue their growing.
Oh, so you'll put them in another spot.
Correct. It's a forming, you could form, you could kind of mark out with poles, what you have where,
Yep.
and then you, yeah.
And what's that industry like now? For this area?
It's the oysters just don't really take all that great in the wild, but with Storm Ida, it turned everything around. It made the oysters, the crabs, the shrimp more abundant. Now it's starting to play back out.
How is that?
Well, you see, an oyster takes 3 years to harvest. So after the storm stirred everything up. But anything that is in an oyster growing area, anything that would have been like a little shell or anything that an oyster would want to stick to, it stuck. So here we are 3 years later. There was an abundance of oysters this year, and great prices. But the prices are all going down now because the abundance of oysters. So
I got you.
Mm-hmm.
So it slowed things down, and then the prices shot up. Like
Correct.
immediately
Well,
after the hurricane.
After the storm, there was no oysters. So
Okay.
Anybody that had a sack of oysters, you could get like $75
I
a
see.
sack.
But you just weren't
Now,
getting,
right
you weren't
now, it's
getting any
down
of
back
them.
to the 30s. Yeah.
And when it started to creep up, it was good, and then you hit saturation,
Correct,
and
yeah.
it's too much oyster.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, shrimp also and crabs. People couldn't shrimp. The boats were messed up. People couldn't go crabbing for a year or so, So everything was able to just flourish. And when the people started going back out, man, they were catching shrimp. They were catching crabs. The baby oysters were there. They just weren't market size yet.
Got it.
So now they're market size. So now they're starting to flood the market with the oysters, with the aftermath Ida, with the seafood.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain a little bit that process you were telling me about of that you would lease oyster ground?
Mm-hmm. From the state, yeah.
Oh, it's from the state lease.
State lease, correct.
I got it.
Yeah. But yeah, just like if you lease a piece of property anywhere, you pay your lease every year, and you just got to know what you have on your bottom,
How much would you lease? Like, for instance, like there's an old saying, like in the ranch world, like you have an acre of ground for every head of cattle you have.
It was like $3 an acre. It wasn't that bad. $3 an acre a year.
But how much could you how many oysters could you put in like an acre?
Oh, you could. I've seen myself work a month and a half, 2 months on an acre of ground that had an abundance of oysters.
But didn't you have hundreds of acres though?
I had like 1,800. My father and grandfather and all accumulated.
Well, how the
about
hell you
18.
work that much?
Well, not all of it was producing areas.
Oh, I
Yeah.
got you. So you got a lot of ground that's no good to you within
a lot
that
of
lease.
ground was like mud, or currents were bad, or too much fresh water. We also have these diversions that they're putting, and they're pumping this fresh water into the marsh, hoping to create new ground. But so those areas were no more good. Reason being the fresh water, and it was man-made. They could flush fresh water when they wanted to. But like the rainy seasons, the salt water would come up. They wasn't running the fresh water, so oysters would take again. But here we go. It takes 3 years to make market oyster. So here we are, maybe 2 years down the line. Your oysters are starting to grow. They're about 2 inches. But we have a rainy season. They're flushing water to grow land or whatnot, and they all die with the fresh water. So
Too big of a salinity
these
swing.
grounds. Too much salinity. We never really had too much problem.
No, I'm talking like you get too big of a change, like from
Yeah,
fresh to
correct.
salt.
Yeah, too much fresh water would kill these oysters. So,
So that eventually made the business untenable.
for some areas, yeah, you just had to rely on a different area.
Yep.
Yeah,
But you eventually got where you were done with oysters.
pretty much. I went after Katrina, I went into the oil field business, and did well there. Then ended up getting back out of it, and my little brother had the oyster leases and everything, and he had been working everything during that era, but then he gave it all up. Too much problem with thieving and not enough oysters and this and that. Not knowing that Ida would have replenished the leases.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. How much, like, you've been at this so long, fishing, oystering,
Correct.
shrimping, and all that, and you broke the chain. Sorry, Ronnie, but you broke the chain.
Yep.
What, like, in your guys' recollection of growing up, of spending time here and the deep family history down here, how would you begin to express the cultural change that happened with oil?
Well, I'm glad he didn't get into the oyster business. You know what
Is
I
that
mean?
right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a good culture, but it's just not there anymore. He wouldn't have really made it because just with Mother Nature, just the oysters were not producing, and you just wasn't having a real good reproduction anymore.
Are those leases something you can sit on? So you don't, you can just maintain the lease, not harvest,
Oh
wait
yeah,
for the good
as
times.
long as
and
you
then-
pay your lease, as long as you pay it, that's all they're worried about.
They don't care if you're fishing it or not.
That's right.
Okay.
Mhm. Because they can't tell you, oh, you got to fish this area. Well, there's mud. There's no oysters. What you want me to do with it? But sometimes you maintain areas to keep the other people. You want to put borders on yourself.
Right.
But we had a lot of problems with thieving going on.
Yeah,
and-
that's the
So,
thing
I
I
mean-
wanted you guys to explain is oyster poaching.
Well, if like when we seeding and we piling these oysters up,
Yeah. So you're going through all the work.
a little boat could come there and in 15 minutes just hurry up and make a few dredges and load their boat up and go somewhere else and cultivate and cull them,
And they were
clean
doing
them up. And
they were doing it at night a lot. These little
Yeah.
boats would come in at
Well,
night. to
who's
oysters.
doing it? What kind of
Well,
dudes are doing it?
Boats and these little small Carolina skiffs would just kind of slide in.
people
and-
that really don't have anything to lose,
But these guys will actually come. Like, you have a leased area, and it's worth someone's effort to come into your leased area and harvest.
Yeah, in 15 minutes, if they make a couple of dredges and they make, let's say, 10 sacks. So 10 sacks, when the price is really high, they was getting anywhere from 50 to $70. They make their night
I got you.
in 15 minutes.
So they're just doing like real quick,
Hit and
small
run.
chunks of
Hit and
small
run.
chunks of income,
Oh, yeah.
but like high money per hour of effort.
Yeah, 10 sacks at $50. At $50, that's $500.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you already had all the overhead to go out there and get them and bring them and vet
Yeah.
them and do all that.
So it's
good
more.
stuff.
It's like a quick money thing.
Quick
It's
money
not a
thing, yeah.
3-year play.
And who they worried
Mhm.
about? Nobody.
I got it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they get caught, sometimes they just get a slap on the wrist.
hmm When you were saying that you when you sold your leases, like, leases can move from one individual to another,
Correct.
and you were saying you kind of wish you had held on to like a little bit or
Yeah.
tried to hold on to a little bit
Correct.
because now you want back in the game.
Not really.
Oh, but you just kind
I
of
really enjoyed it.
I
Really,
see.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I've subleased some leases now, and I'm able to get back out there, and,
Oh, I got you. Okay.
yeah, I sublease it. So, and once I get out there, I enjoy it for a little while. And it's like I'm ready to go back home.
Is it more work than catching shrimp?
In some ways, yes. It's more physical.
Yeah.
Yeah, and every oyster, just like the shrimp, sometimes you got to pick all your big shrimp out, where every oyster has to pass through your hand, and you're gonna grade it.
Hold on, you got to.
You gotta.
When I was
grade it,
looking
you
at
gotta
those
knock
photos, of all
shells
those
off.
mountains of oysters.
Well, those don't have to pass through your hand until you refish them.
Yep.
When you're gonna go refish them, you put it on your table, and then you
Well,
start
you got to sort them all.
sorting them. Yeah, sometimes they have a dead one on a live one. You gotta knock the dead one off. You gotta clean it up and put it in your pile. Then you gotta sack them up. So then you gotta stack them. Then you gotta load them on a conveyor. Then you gotta put them in the truck. Then you gotta take them out the truck. You handle these oysters 8-10 times. So it's a lot of physical work. I mean,
And who are you selling most of those oysters to?
a lot of these places are out of business now, but it was just some little shops that we would sell to, and they would buy the oysters, they would shuck them, they would pack them, and then they would distribute with wholesale. Also, we had a retail business that was out of this world, you know. We would just bring them in front of the house and sell them off the side of the road. Mm-hmm.
That was that sign you had.
So, yeah.
Oysters, get you some.
Get you some.
Watch out.
And you'd sell them shucked or whole?
We had a little shop that we would do some shucking, yeah, and we'd sell them by the sack. And
Ronnie, did you get tangled up in that business when you were young?
For a little while in high school, after school, I'd go shuck a few sacks.
You would?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got that special shucker with the.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, he made that. He made that bomb.
Yeah.
Then when was the first time you started shrimping for money, like commercial shrimping?
Oh, about 3 years ago.
Okay, and you rigged out your oyster boat.
Correct.
Ronnie was explaining to me how that boat would be a little bit different if it was fitted specifically for shrimp.
Yeah. I wouldn't have had those tables and everything and that big winch and stuff, you know. But like right now, I could just move my cables and my nets out the way, and I could throw my dredge off the side and continue working oysters, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you go out like that for shrimp, how long do you normally go out for?
Maybe 2 nights, 3 nights at the max, you know. Yeah.
And you sleep on the boat in the daytime.
Yes, sir.
Because it's a nocturnal business.
Sometimes you catch in the daytime, you know. So I mean, sometimes you got to work with the shrimp, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If it's given, then you fish. If it's not given, once you see it slacks off, you might as well slack off and go get you some rest.
So then you guys just anchor up wherever you're at.
Drop it. You want to try and find some little piece of island to get behind just in case, you know, while you're sleeping, you get a storm, because sometimes these summer storms will have 50, 60 mile an hour winds, you know.
Come out of nowhere.
Yes, indeed.
And then you cook up whatever.
Cook up some of the catch from the night, you know. I'll get up and fillet some fish and peel a few shrimp and put some rice and beans on, and we got a meal eat like a king, son.
And then you guys go to bed and get rolling again.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
And what's the lay out for me what the shrimp how the shrimp market makes it good, you know, gets good times, bad times, good times, bad times.
Well, I really don't know it all that good, but I mean it's
I was reading we were all reading about it this morning.
Yeah.
I was reading about what you were telling me about.
Right. So
like the tariffs that went in when Trump came in.
Well,
and it was your senator I was reading about how your senator
you might know more about it than me now. Man.
Well, Ronnie was telling me about it too.
Yeah.
Senator Kennedy,
who
Ronnie was playing me a clip. Senator Kennedy, who was talking about the defund the police movement. He said, next time you get in trouble, call a crackhead.
Yeah, correct.
If you don't like cops just because they're cops, next time you're in trouble, call a crackhead.
That's right.
But when Trump, he was saying that reading about it, is when Trump started to do tariffs on China, a senator from Louisiana came in and said, please add crawfish and shrimp
to
the list, making the claim that a lot of stuff was come from aquaculture facilities in China where they were using antibiotics.
Correct.
Antibiotics and shrimp, some questionable practices, injecting.
Yeah, that injecting video is pretty scary.
Injecting
Just
silicone
them,
and then not having the U.S. not having proper regulation on what's coming in.
Exactly.
Mislabeled seafood.
Correct.
Seafood coming in, mislabeled origin. Companies that would sort of masquerade as regional companies with names that would be deceptive.
Correct.
That were actually imported seafood, killing the industry
market
here.
Correct.
And so your senator saying, man, I'd like to do more protective tariffs to protect
the American people.
Yeah. And then I was surprised to see in the
fishermen.
same little bit of casual reading we did this morning that Louisiana is actually a major consumer of imported crawfish.
Wow.
Because people probably just see it's crawfish.
I think if you see the name, you just assume it's right.
Yeah, you're
Say
like, I don't know, I'm in
Fouchon Seafood.
Yeah, I'm in
I'll buy
Louisiana.
local.
Yeah, I'm in Louisiana. It's
whatever.
crawfish. Who the hell would suspect that it's from overseas?
And a lot of people, I guess, they go after the cheap price.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But it don't help the American people, you know.
I would never think coming here that if I was buying something in the store, I was buying something from overseas.
No,
it just wouldn't hit me.
correct.
I would just think I was buying local naturally.
Right.
You don't think about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what kind of price fluctuations do you see? You told me something last night about a price from 40 years ago.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, 40 years ago, not even adjusted for inflation, but 40 years ago, you were getting more
than we are today for the same size shrimp. It was a 60, 70 shrimp. Right now, we're getting like 35 cents, 40 cents. 40 years ago, we were getting 65 cents for that same size shrimp.
But that's what's crazy is you're talking about wild caught,
real good tasting shrimp.
And people, not out of any kind of maliciousness. It's just like people not understanding.
No.
People chasing like a little bit of savings, restaurants chasing a little bit of savings, and buying some farm-raised bullshit from overseas.
Yeah, man. It's like, I think they blindfold the people. I mean, the people that just don't hear and know any better or whatnot. I'm not quite sure, you know. It's hard to say what's the problem there. Because I've been in the supermarkets where the prices were really high. And
it's not going to you.
No, man. No way. How can you give the fisherman $1 and you go see the same shrimp in the market somewhere for maybe $14, $15?
And it looks rotten.
Yeah.
They charge
Nasty.
They charge you that much to rot it down.
You don't know how much
It's
it costs.
aged. It's aged.
You don't know how much it costs to make that not so fresh.
you could bring fresh shrimp to some areas like further north that are far away and bring them fresh shrimp and they'll be like, oh, that shrimp's
wrong
not
with
good.
it?
What's wrong with it? What's wrong with it? It's like, this is fresh. That's
It's
rotten.
blue.
It's rotten. Like the fish on the display at the store is like you could see like the head's all black. It's starting to turn orange. It's rotten.
And they lose their a thing I found. I'm just a casual. I told you last night I'm a big time shrimper.
Yeah.
I'm actually not a very big. I deal in very small quantities of shrimp that we catch. But the thing I found, man, is like a questionable shrimp. His head is much more willing to detach from his body. You ever notice that?
Yeah.
Like a new one, his head's on there pretty good. And you let him sit a while and his head gets to be where it just isn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a lot of fidelity to his body after a while. It just wants to fall away.
Well, we were even doing spot prawns last week, and you could tell day one the way they looked, and then we were cooking up like our last meal for dinner. Just the look of them looked different. It's different shade, different color.
And their eyes are
they
freaking
just
glowing.
change. Yep,
eyes
they
are
change.
glowing when they're alive. That goes away. You know what thing I found? Maybe you guys can explain this too. The thing I found about shrimp is that if you pull them up from deep water, so when we catch shrimp, we'll fish in 300 feet of water with pots.
Okay.
Shrimp pots, baited with fish heads. You know,
I think I've seen it. Yeah.
if you pull them up, and just any kind of minimal handling, you cannot put that thing back in the water.
Right. Because you're bringing it from such a depth.
Well, no, because like if you're pulling it up and a shrimp squirts out at the surface,
Yeah.
you'll see him kick down. And I don't know if he's fine or not, but he kicks down. I don't know if he survives or not. But if you take that sucker up on a boat, I mean, in
You dump them in a bucket, they're done.
They history.
you put him in a bucket and wait a minute, and
Yeah,
you put
they're
him back in
done.
the water, he is deader than dead.
Dead.
Like
Yeah.
something that a fish would not phase a fish. It seems they're just a sensitive,
Correct.
sensitive creature, man.
Yeah. Here too, I mean, they could take so much, and then, especially these white shrimp, even though they're big, they're really not all that durable.
Mm-hmm.
A brown shrimp, they could survive in a little drop of water. They'll suck in that little drop of water and stay living. But a white shrimp, man, it's just like, I'm done.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is there a big price difference between what you get for white shrimp and brown shrimp?
Well, the big difference there is the sizes. The brown shrimp will not get big like a white shrimp.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when we were coming in, I wish I knew better where we were. Chili, when you and me were driving in, we got a little sidetracked. We're trying to find that po' boy place.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Or Dacker.
It was the town started with an R.
Raceland.
Raceland. We were in Raceland,
Yep.
and that's where we got our.
First, I thought I hit the po' boy place, and we wound up at a hospital. Then we thought the po' boy place was in the hospital,
Oh,
and then we eventually realized I somehow just clicked on the hospital.
And then the next place we tried to
We
go.
kept driving around the hospital, being like, I don't understand how there's a po' boy place in here.
It's in the cafeteria next to the ER.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised. If there was
Yeah, it's like this thing.
It's right next to the daiquiri stand.
Yeah,
right
this
next
one's
to the
just like there's
pharmacy.
ambulances and stuff. I'm like, you guys see the po' boy place around it?
just we walk in. She's like, "You guys here
It's
for
a po'
emergency or
boy.
po' boy?" I'm like here for a po' boy.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know how to explain it, Chili, but I somehow clicked on the hospital, not the po' boy place.
Yeah.
But we wound up at the po' boy place, where I think this should have been our first sign that the shrimp industry was in trouble, because this guy lays out my bun. This is a phenomenal po' boy. Yeah. First, I got a little nervous.
Yeah, he was very nervous about the
I
veggies.
come in and there's a woman in front of me, and she has a burger at the po' boy place. So I'm like, whatever. Gets a burger, and that burger is a bun and a patty.
piece of cheese. Yeah.
Nothing. And I was like, shit. And we'd already ordered, and I'm kind of panicking. Like, I don't want my po' boy without shredded lettuce and tomato. And
Yeah,
I'm
he
like,
was very distraught about
I
this.
was like, what the hell kind of place are we in?
Yeah.
But then we see in the background, we catch a guy come through with a bun loaded with lettuce, and that breathed easy.
Yeah.
He takes fresh catfish.
Very fresh.
We saw him go. He went in the back room. It looked like he filleted the damn fish. 'Cause
Yeah.
he comes back a while later, holding the fillet between his fingers.
Yeah, I'm like, they didn't freeze that.
No joke. He goes in the room a while later, walks out with a catfish fillet like this
Yeah. I was very impressed.
into that fryer.
I
And
knew
then
it
I
was
made a
gonna be
bad call. Then he like very quickly lifted the basket, and I'm like, Chili, you're gonna get some raw ass catfish. But I was watching the wrong basket. Anyway. The point being, I knew the shrimp business was in trouble.
Yeah.
He lays my bun out, and he was packing shrimp into that bun like when you got too much stuff in your duffel bag,
Mm-hmm.
and you're trying to get one more little bit of clothes in there before you zip it shut. He was packing shrimp into my bun with the palms of his hands, pressing them into it. It wouldn't even hold all the shrimp.
Wow.
When I opened the wrapper up, it was just shrimp.
Yeah, you spent like 10 minutes just eating shrimp.
Like,
I know,
Yeah.
and I thought I must have had $100 worth of shrimp in my sandwich because grocery store prices.
right.
But then we left there, and we're driving along. I guess the upper. I don't know what the hell. I feel it's Bayou Lafourche, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
that's Bayou Lafourche. So that same bayou you were driving along is the same bayou that pumps out here that we went out to go diving.
Mm-hmm.
Shrimp boat after shrimp boat after shrimp boat after shrimp boat, with signs out front
Mm-hmm.
selling shrimp.
Mm-hmm.
$3.50 a pound, whatever the hell.
Yeah, it was $3.50. I think it's the going rate for
And
the
that's
shrimp.
like, this was all shrimpers just selling to what you'd get, but selling it at a quarter of the price you'd pay in a store when you can't even get something that quality because these are brand new, fresh caught shrimp.
Brand new.
And is that a function of what we're seeing? That's a function of that the commercial market is just not present, and you're fishing for locals.
Well, what's the price y'all getting for like the 1620s and the 1015?
$1.
$1 a pound.
You got a 10-15 for $1.05, and a 1620, which would be the next size smaller.
Yeah, explain those terms 'cause
$1.
that might confuse people.
Well,
1620 means
10
what?
15 to the pound. 10 to 15 shrimp to the
per pound.
pound.
Is that tails or heads and tails?
Heads and tails.
Okay, so 1620 or
1620. I mean, if you take usually you count them by threes. You take 3 pounds, and you dump them on your table, and you count at threes
yep.
as one. Well, if you count 18, what's a 1620? If you count 19, 1620.
Got it. It's just a way to
Correct.
to express.
And instead
the
of
size
doing
the
just
shrimp.
1 pound, 1 pound, and I count 15 shrimp. No, you do 3 pounds.
Yep.
That way it's more
to get a better average.
correct.
Mm-hmm.
Understood. And those little ones, like I don't know, like as a consumer, you might popcorn shrimp.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that, you know, if you guys use that term or not.
Like the first small shrimp we had was running like a 60, 70 to the pound.
Oh, what?
60 to 70 shrimp to the pound.
Oh, that's how small those sons of bitches
Yeah.
were.
Now the last ones we caught, they had a lot more smaller ones. That might have been 80 to 100 to the pound.
And those are worth, if you take them, not if you go find a buyer for it, but you go
to the shed.
Yeah, like the shed, that's the commercial buyer.
The shrimp shed.
So you take it to enter it into the commercial market where it could get wherever distributed around. They're going to pay you what for those little shrimp?
Maybe 30 cents.
A pound.
A pound. Yeah. Now the 60s, 70s right now, they might be around 40 to 45. And again, like I said, 40 years ago, it was 65.
Now, that same shrimp, if you keep that same shrimp alive and sell it to the bait market, you get 30 cents a piece.
For one nice shrimp.
For one of those little shrimp.
But you got to keep them alive.
Do you ever work in that trade?
No. I've been, I came very close to it.
Because you got to get all the aerators and everything. And
yeah. And not only that, you know, it's just a different market. You're not really, if you load up with shrimp, well, you just got live shrimp. You got to go in with just maybe a couple of thousand, up to maybe 6,000 shrimp, where, you know, you got to have a lot of live wells going on to keep these shrimp from dying.
Wouldn't that be extremely difficult though? Because like I don't know if it was you or you explaining yesterday that like when you catch shrimp in your net off your boat,
a lot of them die.
A lot of them die because they end up drowning when they're in the net.
Yeah, we
right?
were talking about that. You make so when you do live bait trawling, you trawl for very short drags. You don't make a long drag like we were doing. Like you don't do an hour drag because you're gonna kill a lot of your catch.
Yeah. Once you pick up, you dump your bag, you throw in, you deal with that, then you hurry up, pick up again. You just continually pulling them in. You don't drag them in the net long at all.
Gotcha.
You're always dealing with whatever you're catching at the time. You just keep dealing with it.
And that's why Chief was saying he likes to do short pulls too, to keep them fresher longer. You know.
Yeah, looking
so even
good
when he's
for your customer.
Yeah.
Right, they look better because they're not being dragged in the water for that long after they're dead.
Right.
When you the porpoises, they'll tear that mesh getting at. They want to get at the shrimp.
Fish.
Oh, they want to get the fish.
Yeah. The fish that are trying to escape or getting stuck in the side of your net. Sometimes you have maybe a 4 or 5 inch fish that'll get stuck in the side of
That's
your net.
what he's after.
And they want to pull it out of your net.
I see.
Or they grab it onto your net and they're gonna pull and tear your net.
Dude, you wind up with quite the caravan, man.
You know it.
Like you go on the back of this boat, dude. It's like he's cruising along. We started before it got dark out.
Yeah.
And you go on the back of that boat, and it's like, first off, you get the sense that those birds have all done that before.
Oh, you know it.
Multiple species of gulls, pelicans, and they get in there and they can ride the
draft.
What do you call it? Yeah, they can ride the draft of the boat.
They're just floating over the back.
Yeah, but they got it so dialed that the boat's going in one direction, and that bird is sitting in the draft of the boat, cocked at a 45-degree angle to his line of travel and just moving along sideways, man. You're like, these sons of bitches do this all the time, dude. And coming down and grabbing stuff. And then in the water, the porpoises.
Porpoise, man. You see, if they would have had 30, 40 boats, they would have been distributed.
Yeah.
But they sense a boat, so they all coming from all directions, man. They want that free meal. You know?
No, it's funny because you tell everybody's done that before.
Oh, yes, indeed. They had one guy, in fact, it was right in the West Canal where we were. I seen him up against the bank, and it was before the storm, and he was hand-feeding one. He would come up, and he'd hand-feed it and hand-feed it. And then I seen him. I said, yeah, man, I seen you feeding that porpoise. Yeah, man. He would come all the time to me. But since the storm, he hadn't seen him. So, I mean, it's...
What?
Yeah. Since the storm, he hadn't seen him anymore. But before the storm, he used to hand feed that certain porpoise at the same place all the time.
You're kidding me?
I swear, yeah, straight up. I mean, I was shrimping. My buddy I had with me. I said, "Look, he's feeding." That the porpoise had the head up and just sitting there waiting with the mouth open. Yeah. He flipped me one of them fish. He was there.
And you take pictures of sunsets and stuff when you're out.
Oh yeah, man.
So you never lost track of the beauty of it all, huh?
No, man. Nature's thing of its own, man. It's just
Yeah.
it's nice out there.
I could see getting like after all your life that you lose and doing it for work.
No,
Then you
man.
might after a while just be ambivalent to it.
Be honest with you, man. Like I told you, the last 3-4 times I went shrimping, it costs me to go shrimping. It costs me the money, bank to go shrimping, bait, ice. I mean, fuel and ice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it cost me a little bit to go shrimping, but I enjoy, and like I said, the August season is when I really enjoy it. Those big shrimp, they're red, man. They're jumping on the deck of the boat, they're on top of the net, and every time I see one, I tell my crew members, look, they're on top. It's just so excited,
Mm-hmm.
And they're jumping in front of that net just like popcorn, man. They're running, they're jumping all over the place when you really find them. It's pretty neat to see, It's just I enjoy it.
Yeah.
He says his famous phrase, "Watch out!"
Watch out. Yes, indeed.
That's your
man.
catchphrase.
Catchphrase, man.
So have you gotten into spearfishing like your son here?
Not as much, man. He brought it to a different level, we started out just going dive for lobsters, with the tank and hauling everything, and come on, we're gonna get lobsters. Dad, I want to shoot some fish, man. So we had to give up my wife and I had to give up our lobster hunting so he can shoot him some little hogfish. And then lo and behold, man, we was lobstering one time and he's shooting some fish and I look in the distance and you got some little 3-foot sharks hitting the bloodline and coming back to hit it again, and they finding their trail to who. And then when he sees the little sharks coming, they had like 2 or 3 of them. He's like, sharks, and then he goes and he's behind his mama. He grabs his mama, and I could hear her screaming under the water. Hey, leave me alone. I said, put your
You were using her as a human shield.
I was like 12 years old.
Ronnie's original shark
Yeah,
shield.
man.
Original shark shield.
I never thought you could scream under the water, but his mama was screaming under the water, man. And I looked off to the side, and they had a big, about an 8-9 foot big nurse just kind of sitting there, I'm glad they didn't see that one, But it's good, man. Under the water is beautiful, man. It's just a whole nother world, And then, like Ronnie, Ronnie went further with it and started the free diving, Well, I got to start breathing up and learning how to free dive, and I got them big fins, and I'm not nowhere close to what they do or y'all do, But I mean, I enjoy it,
Yeah.
Just go out there and
He likes to go to Bahamas and get some conch.
conch.
Oh, you like that?
He's
Oh, I
the
like
conch
them
man.
conch.
That's fun, man.
Yeah.
That's low risk diving too.
Yeah, you're right.
When it's about nipple deep.
Yeah, man. We went a little bit further than nipple, but it was about 25 or so. But I mean, it's just nice to see also, just the nature of things. And I'm a crustacean fisherman, so conquer right up the line.
You're a crustacean. Yeah, I never thought of it. You're a crustacean specialist.
Yeah, man.
Conch and lobsters like what he likes to do. Like when we go together to the Bahamas.
That's your idea of vacation.
Right.
You just switch crustaceans.
Snails and crayfish, man.
Oh yeah, tell me about that. That's shit, man. I even made a note in my phone to ask you about the snails.
the beagle-nose.
Yeah.
Okay, are you familiar with this?
No.
Okay, lay the snail situation out for me.
Well, snails are also in the salinity area, So when we would transplant oysters,
Are you guys using the word escargot? But it's
No.
because it's not a land snail.
bigano.
Bigano?
Yeah, bigano.
Beagle-nose. Yeah.
Bigano. I don't know how you spell it, or we just call it a bigano. But you see, so we transplant these oysters.
Yeah.
So these oysters have a scent. They have a smell of their original area. So when you put it in this new area, that scent travels throughout the water. So drumfish, your snails, your trout, everything. Trout, they'll come to eat the little fish in the oysters. But the snails smell them.
Like they know something went on.
They
and there's
know.
new food.
They smell it. So they come into the dinner table. So these snails are moving in. So whenever we bed oysters in a salinity area, we'll always check the edge. And I remember one time we checked the edge and we had like 65 big snails. So we knew they were coming. So we put it down in September. But when the the winter comes, these snails go in the mud or they'll just hide out. So we knew it was going to be safe that we had to fish them out before the water warmed up. So when so we're all right for the winter. But when the water starts warming, we put out these snail traps, which would have been we'd go cut like these little tall oak trees, about a 2-inch oak tree, and we'd nail some palmetto leaves on it
Yeah.
and wrap the palmetto leaves with some baling wire.
The hell's that?
A little storm outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'd stick these poles.
Come on back. Oh, I
along
got
the
distracted
edge.
by the thunder. Say it again.
So we'd
But you use a
You
bamboo
got the
too
oak
sometimes,
pole.
huh? A bamboo or an oak pole? But you use the bamboo sometimes too, huh?
no, bamboo's just a mark. But we would nail these palmetto leaves to the pole
Yep.
and then wrap them with baling wire.
Yep.
And we'd push the pole in the mud on the edge of the reef where the palmetto would just start touching the mud. And these snails, they want to hurry up and lay. Then after they lay is when they're dangerous, because after they lay, they don't want to eat. So they hurry up and they're climbing these poles to lay their eggs.
So they're wanting to lay the egg on the palmetto.
Correct. They want to climb to put their egg in the water column, in the
Yep.
water, to float around. So they're going to climb anything they can. They climb on crab cages, poles, anything you have, they're going to climb.
We could actually walk outside right now probably and go catch a couple of them off the pilings.
Yeah.
Like those oysters you saw in the pilings.
Yep.
If you go walk outside now, you're going to see beaconos on them eating them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eating the oysters.
Yeah. They'll drill a hole in them. Either drill a hole in them or they'll cluster up on one and suffocate it until it opens up, and they'll get their drill in there.
Really?
And they actually spit their stomach bile in the oyster, and it
Dissolves it.
it dissolves this oyster like a jelly, and they'll just suck it out through
Oh,
that little bitty
man.
hole, man.
It's a shitty way to go.
Did
right
you
there.
man.
Yeah.
Didn't you say one time like you accidentally ate one that had been started to get drilled on?
Oh,
and it's like
Lord,
the
if you-
nastiest.
If you eat an oyster that just started to get that stomach bile in it, man, you just don't want to see another oyster for a while, you know. But it's nasty, man. That stuff. So we've caught up to like 35 5-gallon buckets of snails in one day, just passing out traps. Yeah,
Are you doing that more to protect the oysters, or are you doing it to eat the snails?
protect the oysters.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then you're eating those snails too.
Yeah, well, when we have that big of an
Yes.
amount, it's hard to get rid of them. You know, back then we didn't have Facebook and this and that. Right now, you can get rid of them quick.
Yeah.
People really want them. The crab fishermen will catch them and they'll put them up. They'll sell them like $40-50 for a bucket of snails.
What? Really?
Oh yeah, man.
And how do you guys fix those?
Well, I used to have a pressure cooker that could hold a 5-gallon bucket of snails, and you pressure them for like 15 minutes. Now you could put them in the freezer and boil them for 15 minutes. But if just a raw snail, you gotta boil it for about an hour or so.
And
You gotta boil the hell out of it.
you just boil it
and
with a
can
little bit of
still-
that crab ball seasoning we put on the crawfish.
Yeah.
Kinda
Yep.
Just boil them with that same seasoning, and you just take them out with a little small knife.
Now they have a little area on the backside of it you gotta peel or cut off. We call it the tobacco or whatnot. It's just the area where they keep that bile at their stomach acid. It turns purple after you boil it or whatnot.
Yep.
Yeah, you want to cut that off. You eat too much of that, you'll get sick. Yeah.
Got it. Talk about your gumbo. You were talking about your gumbo recipe last
Well.
night.
Oh man, I'm getting hungry already.
I was gonna say we're talking about all these oysters. I want to go crack
Yeah,
some
man.
open.
Well,
Well,
bring
we're
them
talking
out.
about
Cracks
oyster
out.
gumbo.
Oh,
Yeah, man.
He told me that he don't put sausage in his gumbo because the minute you put sausage in your gumbo, it's sausage gumbo.
It's sausage gumbo, man. I don't care what kind of gumbo it is. You put sausage in it, it's a sausage gumbo.
And it's
That's
true.
my philosophy. You know, man. Now I've cooked.
So you make a huge quantity.
Yeah, I got a certain size pot. If I'm gonna cook a gumbo, that's my pot. I put all my same ingredients, quantities or whatnot, and I'll freeze it up, man, and I'll eat it for whenever I want some gumbo. It's ready to go.
And you do a
Just heat
gallon of oysters.
A gallon of oysters. I'll put the chicken thighs, chicken legs, maybe, and some chicken wings, gizzards, and maybe salt pork, you know,
Uh-huh.
and then a gallon of oysters, man. I make a dark roux and season it up. It's all good.
And you eat it out in your boat if you need to.
Oh, if I need to, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll bring some on the boat when we go shrimping and all. I'll bring me some gumbo and yeah,
Good life, man.
good life, living the dream.
I like that you never got burned out on seafood. You're still.
Oh no, man! I'd like to see the pile of oyster shells from the oysters I eat in my life.
How many oysters you ate in that oyster eating competition that you did one time for the oyster festival?
Oh, I don't think I ate that many. I'm sure
It was over a
didn't win.
dozen. Like
I ate about 80 oysters, maybe. I don't know.
Did you
Maybe
have to
not
shuck
that
your
much.
own?
No, they shuck them for you. But you know, if
I remember you had eaten
got
over a
shells
dozen,
and this and that
dozen,
when
'cause
you-
they were counting dozens, and you did over a dozen.
cool, I don't remember, man. You have a better memory than me, man. I don't. But
Did you win?
Oh no.
So that's some of those professional eaters that ate like ridiculous amounts.
They would just inhale.
Like bulimics?
I was trying to pull. Oh yeah, I don't know.
They
Probably
throw them back
so.
up?
Oh, I really don't.
It's
I
like
don't
those
know about
professional eaters, like
It-
the hot
yeah,
dog
but I'm
eaters.
always
If you
suspicious
suspicious of those people,
You
man.
disqualified if you throw it up.
Oh, you are?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
like
I'm
the
not
hot
into
dog
that.
contest.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I don't mean to judge, man, but I'm not into that hot dog eating contest.
No, I rather enjoy your oysters.
Where they're like, they dunk that bun in water so
Oh,
you can
yeah.
basically slurp the bun and inhale those
yeah.
dogs.
It's pretty nasty.
Come on, man.
Then there's the controversies where they would dip them, but they would leave some of it in there so they're not having to consume as
Sure,
much.
man.
And they take the cups away.
Yeah, it's hard to dip a hot dog bun and
Yeah.
have it all come back
Yeah.
out. I've never tried it. I'm just guessing it's hard to do it.
But we tried
Give it
with
a little shake in there.
we tried with the bagel chips this trip. Didn't work that well.
Didn't work.
Oh,
too
that's
well.
right. Yeah, it's not good. Ronnie and Greg, can you guys give Chili some critiques on his first spear diving expedition? Chili explained to us he's not a waterman
No.
What'd you think of it?
from South Dakota.
No. What did I think of it?
So I think for us, we see what's going on, but for someone, it's hard to explain everything that's going on down there.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say like it's hard to like rationalize like everything that's going on. Like it's weird. It was weird like being on the surface and just kind of rolling with all the waves, being next to a rig, and then like you get below the surface. Or
We'll
you're
talk
looking
about
below.
being in the boat first, because I kept telling you got to get in the water, else you have no idea what's going on. here.
Right. Yeah. Steve was yelling at me that I needed to get in the water to just to be able to put it all into perspective. And I was like, yeah, I'll go, and I ended up going. And yeah, it was incredible trying to just get below the surface and just seeing like all the different types of fish, which I don't know about, and everything is pretty calm. And it was like I was telling Steve, it was one of the coolest natural things I've ever seen in my life. Like not man-made or anything like that, but like just the natural beauty behind it all was pretty incredible. And I would definitely do it again. I don't know if I would go around and buy all the spearfish and stuff, come down, like make trips down to Louisiana or wherever else to go diving and snorkeling. But if I got to go on a
There's
trip,
extra gear on the boat.
yes.
You're getting it.
If there's some extra flippers
All right.
kicking around,
I'll have to start planning that.
Yeah.
And you got to fish.
I got it. Yeah, the old South Dakota wahoo.
A rarity.
It's a rarity. Not many people know about it. Well, they do know about it.
They
just
do
don't
know about it now.
they just don't know about the new name. So, yeah, and I'm getting a barracuda, which is great.
He's gonna stuff the head.
I'm gonna Euro mount the head.
Euro mount the head.
I'm gonna
yeah.
Euro mount the head. Yeah, that was cool too.
And he's gonna have a big fish fry.
Gonna have big fish fry. Everybody's invited, except for you, Greg. Just
I thought we got over that.
no, yeah, that was it was incredible. Yeah, when I remember I was actually right by Dan. I was behind the camera right now, and I saw a barracuda, and I kind of like had a moment of like, oh shit, because I didn't know.
Did you know what you were looking at? Just sort of instinctively.
I knew that was a barracuda.
Yeah. It's like a fish that most people would be like, oh, I recognize that fish.
that doesn't look friendly at all.
Big like little snaggle teeth.
Yeah, his mouth is a little open. I was just like, yeah, I don't want to fuck with that thing. Sorry. Yeah, so I saw it, and then Dan was telling me, he's like, oh yeah, like that's barracuda, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then I ended up swimming next to Steve, and he's like, oh, we'll try to shoot a barracuda. And he's like, shoot that one right there. And I was too far away. I was probably 30 feet away or something.
Way too far away.
Well, I didn't know.
Thought he had a rifle.
Yeah. If I had a 300 Weatherby, I'd be dead. But
Then I told him, I'll squeeze you when it's time to shoot.
yeah. And then we get up.
It was cool though. I was watching from I don't know, 30, 40 feet
Yeah,
away.
I'll give you a little goose when it's time to shoot.
Yeah, he's like, I'll squeeze your arm when it's time to shoot. And I was probably like, I don't know, 7 feet away from this thing and squeezed my arm, pulled the trigger, and ended up getting it. And no, it was incredible though. Like I'm very, very glad I got in the water.
And we had drifted away too, so y'all managed to dispatch the South Dakota wahoo, pretty big one.
Well,
While
Greg
we were,
didn't
far
like
away.
how I was going about it, and he came swimming over.
Okay, I was
there.
about to say that looked like a Greg job.
he didn't like my plan.
I saw it take off, then went out of the rig, and I saw Steve chasing it, trying to wrangle it, and it was very much alive. And then I just
did you see it circle back on y'all and came after y'all?
Oh, it was going nuts.
No, he came right back, but I thought he was going to get me. I thought he was going to impale me with the shaft.
Yeah, he was all over you.
They go crazy when you shoot them. They jump out of the water.
Greg didn't like what was going on and came over there.
In.
He thought we were going to get mauled. This is probably reasonable. So
I gave it a few seconds and decided to intervene with the problem.
I think I was playing cat and mouse with that big dog snapper when y'all were messing with all that.
Yeah.
So in the end, we got amberjack, which we had and it was delicious.
Yep.
The controversial amberjack.
Yep.
Meaning it's delicious amberjack.
Yeah, but it's one of those many. I keep saying this. It's one of those many fish that people argue about.
Yeah.
There's certain fish that people don't argue about. Like if you go, there's certain fish that are just universally accepted as good. Like no one wants to hear from someone who says that wahoo's no good, right? Sure, there's someone, but it's just no one cares.
Or like snapper.
Yeah, no one. It's like
grouper.
Some dude somewhere doesn't like it, but it's just accepted.
Yeah.
Common carp. Of course, you're going to find a guy that says common carp are great. You're going to find a guy that says coyote meat is great, but it's just generally people aren't into common carp.
Yep.
But it seems to me, in my limited experience, the amberjack splits people right down the middle. Splits people right down the middle. There's a little bit of regionality to it.
Well, I feel like when I first came down here with some of the guys I was going with, it's the first fish I ever shot in Louisiana.
Mm.
And even they were like, maybe I'll have a little bit, but they weren't like, oh, good, we shot an amberjack.
Yeah.
Well, my take on it was, how bad could it be if it's so tightly regulated?
So this
You're
we're
allowed
going back.
you're allowed one a day, a short season.
It
Can't be that bad.
It was a little looser back then. I mean, you're talking probably 14, 15 years ago. I shot it in March. I mean, it wasn't even the same time of year.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember when they started bringing in the season on amberjack.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I was probably in like middle school when they started putting on. So
it's a tight ass season now.
I also didn't realize how old I was getting because I've been coming down here for a long time.
Yeah.
And then you talk to Ronnie, and Ronnie's considerably younger than I am, but it's the regulations change greatly with that fish over the years.
So it's a 1 month season, one a day.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a tight ass regulated fish, which says to me someone wants it.
But the commercial guys got a long season. They could.
Oh, they do.
They get them, like all winter.
And they long line them.
No, they bandit fish them, kind of like snapper.
They do what?
Bandit fishing.
I don't know what that means.
Big giant reel with a big hand crank on it, and they'll put like 20 to 50 hooks on it and drop it down. Or with the amberjack, sometimes they'll run a lot less hooks. But you never seen like a snapper boat, like how snapper boats fish with big bandit reels and catch ungodly amounts of snapper?
No, I haven't seen it.
It looks like a big black pulley on like a metal arm that they'll stick in a rod holder in the gunnel, and they just crank it up. But it's
got a big metal wheel on it, like this big.
And it's got one main line with a bunch of droppers on it.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
You just bait them as it goes out.
Yep. You'll have like
and then an auto
50
jigs or what?
No, you just lay it on the bottom, and then by the time on a good spot, by the time you get it all on the bottom, you bring it back up basically.
Got it. It's all just circle hooks.
Yep.
And that's how they catch them.
And that's how they fish them. Yeah.
Okay. Got amberjack.
Yep.
Got gray triggers.
Yep.
Also tightly regulated.
Yep. Very tightly regulated.
One a day.
Yeah. One per person per day, and they also have a very small season.
Mm-hmm.
Like they close the same day as amberjack.
Okay. Cobia, tighter and tighter all the time.
Yeah. That was a killer for me.
Not one per person, but it's
Ronnie was hurting yesterday seeing all those cobia and letting them swim away.
Oh,
there was a lot.
No,
the first day.
That was brutal.
Yeah, the first day.
Lot.
That's right.
brutal.
Like my side job is commercial cobia, and it's like used to be able to go and you get 2 per person and no boat limit. Now it's
2
one
per vessel.
1 per person, 2 per vessel.
Oh, so even if you're out by yourself, it's 1.
Yeah, so if you're by yourself, it's only 1.
Yep. Mangrove snapper, which still is very, a very friendly regulatory structure.
They haven't really changed much. They've
Yeah.
been the same as long as I can remember.
10 a day.
10 a day and no season on them.
12
nothing.
inches or something
The thing
like
I
that.
think what helps the mangrove snappers is they're tougher to catch on rod and reel. They're a lot smarter than the red
They're
snapper.
slick, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
And from what I heard back in the day too, is it used to be the mangrove. What we like do with mangrove fishing now, where we go up and chum a rig, and then we'll kind of free line, let the hook float back with it. It used to be white trout and croakers, like back. This is way before my time, but like
Yeah, we used to fish
the old
croakers.
heads on Grand Isle would say, yeah, there used to be no mangroves, dude. It was all big croakers, like bull croakers, that big. Like we were catching the little ones at the
Yep.
shrimp nets. They're like this big. So I heard, I was never here for this because it was in the 70s, 80s, but that's what it used to be. The mangrove fishery was a croaker fishery.
Really?
Yep.
And as those croakers went down, the mangroves came up.
Yeah, cyclical. Something else comes
Yeah.
up and takes
Huh.
her spot.
And we got red snapper.
Yep.
Which went the other direction. I mean, I know it fluctuates all the time. But
Yeah, so
when we
red-
fished last year, Friday, Saturday, so the season was a certain window of time.
Yeah, just a weekend, and you can only have 2 per person. And then as the season went on, they opened it up to, by the end of the season last year, you could have 4 per person.
Yep.
Whereas, I mean, I can remember as a kid going out, when I first started free diving and everything like that, it was like 1 week a year, and you can only have 2 per person.
And right now it's open all week.
Now it's open. They opened it up I think in April. They opened it mid-April. They opened it this year, and it's open all week long and 4 per person. 16-inch.
It's a very, in Louisiana, it's a very fluid regulatory structure. Like they're fine tuning
So-
all the time.
It's one of the places
Well,
you have to go to. You really have to pay attention. If
Yeah.
you're coming from out of state, I'm just so used to a season and a size
Yeah.
that's
Well,
pretty
right.
Yeah,
consistent.
like when I go to my mom's lake, like when I go to Michigan and fish my mom's
Yeah.
lake, in my lifetime, there's been one change.
Yeah.
And that was that pike went from 21 to 24 inches and bass went from 12 to 14. Other than that, I can't think of a single change that's happened in 50 years.
Well, even here, the in-season changes. I mean, they'll be as you go throughout, right?
Yeah. They'll close it on you last minute, or even like the amberjack season. This popped up in April, I think.
Right.
I sent y'all the text. Hey, look, they're giving us a spring amberjack season this year, which is spring's my favorite time to shoot them because they come up higher in the water column. It's a little easier to free dive for them versus like trying to shoot them in August because they give us an August season most years. Like that's more of a guaranteed season, but the spring season we hadn't had it in 3 years, and this was the first time in 3 years we could actually go out again in May and shoot them.
Yep. And what else did we get? Trying to think.
We had a dog snapper,
Dog snapper.
Scamp sandwich.
mangroves. I did get a scamp sandwich. Wasn't a monster one, but
Scamp grouper.
scamp grouper. Yep.
What else? That's about it.
That's about it.
Passed up. I mean, there's all kind of fish we didn't go
Oh.
get.
Yeah. I mean,
Almaco? Did we get Almaco?
Yeah.
yeah, we did get some almacos.
Almacos.
Steve
Why
caught
rod
some.
and reel?
He was riding reels and almacos.
Special Almaco.
Yeah.
That was great, man. Thanks for having us down.
Yeah.
You can
That's
people will be able to watch all about it.
Yeah.
They'll be able to watch all about it.
How'd you like those amberjack fights?
I could see getting drowned by one of those. No, I'm serious, man. I could see if you didn't do something right and got wrapped up, he's gonna drown you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
You have to know where your knife is.
Yeah.
I mean,
I-
If you got that line when he's going all crazy, if you got that line around your foot, he's gonna drown you,
Oh,
man.
yeah.
You're not holding him back. He'd have no problem dragging you down.
Oh no, they're not even trying, and they're just working you.
You cannot. You'd get like you try to tighten down on him, and you're just going underwater,
Yep.
Yep.
pulling you down as you go.
and you got to realize you got to let go to get a breath.
Yeah.
No,
It's all about finding that right amount to give them and attention to like where
And
you're
still
not
be able to
drowning
breathe.
yourself, but still not letting them get to the rig. Because once they get to the rig,
Pretty much.
it
game
becomes
over.
game over. It becomes really tough to go retrieve them.
Yeah, these fish, like, just for people listening, these fish, if you shoot one, you can get over, and these guys will, no joke, hand the line up or hand the gun up to the boat, and they tie this thing off to the cleat to try to stop it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're
Keep
not
it out of
stopping
the rig. Once
Yeah.
it gets in
Rig.
the rig, you're in trouble.
Like,
Yeah,
and then
well,
it's tied off to the cleat on the boat, and then you run the risk that he'll pop off because he's got something firm to pull against. But other than that, you're going to lose it anyway.
When we're rod and reel fishing for them on charters, we use big 50 T-Hager 50 wides, and they'll be, once you hook them up, you basically got to slam it in reverse and hold hold the spool with your hands, and they're still screaming out like 40 to 50 pounds of drag, just to give some perspective. So use big, what's the Jerry Brown braid, like 350 pound braid.
Heavy duty braid.
And you just basically lock it down and try to winch them in, but they're still scrking back towards that rig.
Yeah, you try to back the boat away.
Yeah, you have to use a boat.
You had the biggest braid you could find with some like 300 or up to 500 pound test mono with a 60-knot circle hook with a live blue runner, and you drop that down to the school. And when you feel them eat it, you just throw it in full reverse.
Flood the back of the boat, hold on to the spool, and they're still going.
Because they go in the rig, they'll cut it instantly. I mean, you saw like Greg had even was cutting his Dyneema with his first one out on this trip.
Rig donkeys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. God, they're strong.
It's cool to see. It's like a pack of wild dogs coming in when you shoot a mangrove or something like that.
Yeah.
Or when Chili was fishing, I was like,
they were trying to eat his red
that was a
snapper.
benefit of Chili's fishing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Steve and
Chili
you were.
special.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's how Chili dropped down with a rod, caught a snapper, pulled it up, and they just come up with it.
Yeah. Just
Like mad.
Going wild.
There are fish
Yeah.
I don't like to try and shoot deep on a free dive. Like you ain't trying to shoot them because you know you're about to get your hands full, and you definitely want to hurt them. You don't want to just take any shot you could get on them because you want to get that stun on them so where they're stunned and it gives you a little time to get to the surface and prep yourself because they're not dead. They're just charging their turbos.
Greg says you got to break their will.
gotta break their will, break their soul. Yeah.
I don't think.
But sometimes they break you because sometimes you lock down on them and you're swimming up and you're trying to break their stride there, and then you look up and go, "I'm deeper than I was when I shot it."
He says when you hit it, if it stuns for a second, then you got to hog it,
and
it kind of he thinks it breaks their will.
Well,
no,
sometimes
I don't think it breaks their
will.
They're just
then they puke out whatever they have in their stomachs.
Yeah,
They're like
they flare their gills
flare
up.
up,
They flare their gills up and they'll charge up at auction. Like I said, like they're charging their turbos and then they're ready to kick your ass.
He's like, I'm gonna vomit up my lunch. I'm gonna charge my turbos, and then I'm gonna drown this person.
When you see the tail,
take it with me.
When you see the tail start to flick like that, get ready because you about to go for a ride.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Hold on.
Yeah, I was legit a little bit not scared is not the right word, but you just become aware of how you could do something wrong.
Yeah.
If you're not being careful about your line.
Well, you just have to be, especially if you're shooting a reel like most of us do, and you start getting that line up. If you not clean it off to the boat and you get it up, and they make another run where that line is, you just have to be very aware of what you're doing.
Because as y'all seen, they do like you'll start gaining on them. Like, oh yeah, I might have broke their wheel nose, and they're like, oh no, we're making another run.
Yeah, it's not a fish. Some fish you do break them.
Like
they'll
wahoo.
do wahoo. They'll do 1 or 2, maybe 3 runs, and then they'll turn sideways or run out of gas. Where the amberjack are just nonstop.
They're resilient.
Yeah.
Well,
That was fun.
Yeah, you did it.
I lived it.
You did it.
I lived it.
Got you a big one, and then you got you a good eater.
Yeah, and I labeled that one Steve Special.
Steve Special.
Steve Special Amberjack, my little one.
Yeah.
But man, I thought it was pretty good, and I texted Yanni. He's got a strong North Carolina influence.
Yeah.
Married into a North Carolina fishing family. I texted him, and he says right off, "Do they eat those?"
That's crazy.
I said, "Very popular."
Taste.
Very popular.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
And then he followed up with congratulations.
That's cool.
So must be something.
Yes,
Well,
indeed.
Chief, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Yes, indeed.
I appreciate it.
Same here.
You're the first oysterman we've ever had on.
All right.
Yeah, and I hope they fix your prices up.
Oh, same here, man. Oyster what?
Oysterman.
Man, oyster man.
Oysterman. What do you guys call it?
Oysterman.
Okay.
Oysterman.
I hope they get your prices squared away.
Yeah, man.
I think that it'd be great if consumers of seafood factored in even if it costs them an extra $1 or $2, factored in the source of where they're getting their seafood,
Right.
to help sustain certain industries and practices.
Realize it's locally caught and,
Wild caught fish, man.
that's right.
Silicone free.
Silicone free. No added antibiotics, yeah.
That's right.
All right. All right, man. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Row your boat gently down the stream. Row your boat gently down the stream, and I say, merrily, and I say, life is but a dream. Row your boat gently down the stream. Row your boat gently down the stream, and I say, merrily, and I say, life is but a dream. Life is but a dream. Rip your pants gently down the seam. Oh, rip your pants gently down the seam, and I say, merrily, and I say, hear the lady scream. Rip your pants gently down the seam. Rip your pants gently down the seam. I say, merrily, I say, hear the lady scream.